I was born in 1867 in the sleepy coastal town of Torquay, England, into a family of explorers and soldiers, where tales of distant lands whispered through the halls like ghosts. My father, a captain in the Royal Navy, filled my head with stories of uncharted seas, and my brother Edward dragged me into scrapes that tested our mettle. But it was the army that forged me. At 18, I joined the Royal Artillery, shipping off to Ceylon, now Sri Lanka, where the humid air clung like a fever dream, and I learned to command men under fire. There, amid coconut groves and ancient ruins, I first tasted the thrill of the unknown. Yet it was a chance meeting in 1900 with the Royal Geographical Society that ignited my true calling. They needed a surveyor for the wild borders of South America, and I, restless for glory, volunteered. In 1906, I set foot in Brazil, tasked with mapping the frontier between Bolivia and Brazil, a tangled hell of jungle where rivers twisted like serpents and maps ended in question marks. The stakes were brutal, slavers roamed the trails, indigenous tribes guarded their secrets with poisoned arrows, and the green canopy hid beasts that could swallow a man whole. My party hacked through vines thicker than my arm, wading swamps where piranhas nipped at our boots. We lost men to fever, bullets from hostile bands, but I pushed on, compass in hand, sketching lines that no European had dared trace. By journey's end, I'd completed in months what they predicted would take years. The society hailed me a hero, but I saw only fragments, shards of ancient pottery, overgrown roads that hinted at empires long buried. The Amazon wasn't empty, it was hiding something vast. That first taste hooked me. I returned in 1908, then 1910, each expedition deeper into the maw. In 1910, along the Rio Verde, I stumbled on ruins, massive stone walls, half swallowed by roots, etched with symbols that spoke of a forgotten people. My guides, indigenous men who'd become wary allies through gifts of knives and cloth, whispered of a city called Akakor, towers of gold, streets paved with jade, abandoned when gods turned their backs. Skeptics in London scoffed, calling it fever talk, but I pored over old Portuguese manuscripts in dusty archives. One, manuscript 512 from 1753, described a bandeirante stumbling on ruins in Bahia, statues of kings, amphitheaters for thousands, a metropolis rivaling Rome, lost to time and vine. It mirrored my findings. The pieces aligned. There, in the heart of Mato Grosso, lay Zet, not Eldorado's glittering myth, but a sophisticated civilization, its people masters of astronomy and agriculture, vanished perhaps by plague or war, their bones fertilizing the soil. The Great War interrupted my quest in 1914. I returned to uniform, commanding artillery on the Western Front, where mud and mustard gas made the jungle seem a paradise. Bullets whined like banshees, and I earned the Distinguished Service Order for holding lines that broke lesser men. But each night, under shell fire, I sketched maps of Z in my mind, vowing to resume. Victory in 1918 left me scarred but unbroken, and by 1920, I launched my first solo hunt for the city. Lightweight, just me and a few porters. We plunged into the green void. The stakes rose. No grand party to draw tribal ire. Just my will against the wild. But fever struck like a hammer, and when my last mule collapsed, starving, I fired the shot that echoed my defeat. I staggered back to civilization, body racked, spirit seared. Z mocked me from the shadows. Undeterred, I planned again, this time with my son Jack at my side. Born in 1903, he inherited my fire. Tall, eager, with eyes that burned for adventure. We'd bonded over tales of my trips. Now, at 22, he'd trade drawing rooms for danger. His friend Raleigh Rymel, a strapping lad of 21, joined us, loyal as a bloodhound. No large entourage this time. Too many feet stirred ghosts of conquest, provoking the fierce Jingu tribes. We'd travel lean. Canned beef, rifles, a sextant for stars, and my jade idol, a talisman from earlier journeys said to charm the forest spirits. Backers wavered. My wife Nina pleaded, "Come home whole." But the Royal Geographical Society chipped in, and we sailed from New York in January 1925, the world watching. We reached Cuiabá by April, a dusty outpost where the Amazon's breath turned stifling. Hiring 2 Brazilian laborers and mules, we plunged in on the 20th, me in my Stetson, Jack and Raleigh grinning like boys on a lark. The trail was a gauntlet, rivers swelled with anaconda shadows, jaguars screamed territorial claims, and ants marched in armies that devoured flesh. We bartered with the Kalapalo, offering mirrors for safe passage, their chief eyeing us warily but granting nods. Stakes climbed daily. Food dwindled, maps blurred in sweat-soaked journals. Yet signs teased, ceramic fragments, straight causeways vanishing into undergrowth. Z was close. I felt it in my bones. By late May, we'd reached Dead Horse Camp, a forsaken spot from my 1900 trek, where a mule had perished. Exhausted but alive, I penned letters home. To Nina. We hope to get through this region in a few days. You need have no fear of any failure. To the Society. We are entering uncharted territory. All well. Optimism surged. The air hummed with promise. We dismissed the laborers, their eyes wide with unspoken dread, and pressed on. 3 Englishmen against eternity. That was May 29th, 1925. The jungle swallowed our campfire smoke, and silence fell. What befell us? Theories swirl like mist. Some say the Kalapalo, fearing our intrusion, loosed arrows in the night. Bodies hacked, bones scattered to warn intruders. Others whisper of starvation, our cans emptied by relentless march, or fever's silent coup, claiming us one by one in delirious haze. Bandits perhaps lured by our guns. Or, and this chills me most, did Z claim us not in death, but transformation? Did we find her golden spires and choose to stay? Guardians of a secret too sacred for the world? Rescue parties followed. Over 100 souls lost in the trying, from George Diot's 1928 foray to the Villas Boas brothers' grim findings in the 50s. Bones surfaced, tested, discarded as frauds. My compass turned up in a tribal hut, but from an old trip. The Royal Geographical Society mourned us lost in 1927, yet Nina clung to hope, channeling seances for my voice. Decades later, in the 1990s, archaeologists unearthed Kuhikugu, earthen pyramids, moats, a network of villages spanning thousands, thriving until the 1600s. Proof Z breathed, her people not phantoms, but builders of a realm that dwarfed our imaginings. My quest endures, a riddle etched in green. Did glory claim me, or folly? The Amazon keeps her counsel, but in every rustle, I hear the call. Venture forth, uncover truth, no matter the cost. For explorers like me, the map's edge is where life begins and ends.